Angel Reese special at McDonald's now. Let's break it down. My favorite barbecue sauce, American cheese, crispy bacon, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun, of course. And don't forget the fries and a drink. Sound good? Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating restaurants for a limited time.
Your data is like gold to hackers, and they'll sell it to the highest bidder. Are you protected? McAfee helps shield you, blocking suspicious texts, malicious emails, and fraudulent websites. McAfee Secure VPN lets you browse safely, and its AI-powered text scam detector spots threats instantly. You'll also get up to $2 million of award-winning antivirus and identity theft protection, all for just $39.99 for your first year. Visit McAfee.com. Cancel anytime. Terms apply.
Welcome to Dear Prudence. I am your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. I host a couple of other podcasts, including By the Book and How to Be Fine. Be sure to check those out if you love self-help books, hate self-help books, or want advice on how to be okay-ish rather than perfect. Today, we'll be answering questions about reconciling with a daughter after a huge fight, navigating toxic in-laws, and making boundaries with selfish parents. Here to help me out is culture writer and video essayist and superstar who I just adore, Princess Weeks. Oh my gosh, Princess, thank you so much for joining us today. It's such a thrill to have you in studio.
I am vibrating with excitement. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor, such a pleasure. And just meeting you for 10 minutes, I'm like, this is my best friend now.
Yay! I feel the same way.
We should get brunch.
Yes, let's do it. We don't live that far apart from each other.
Exactly.
Yes.
We can make it work.
We're both Brooklyn girls.
Exactly.
Yes. So just a note to listeners, Princess, you very kindly, because you're recovering from a cold, you're wearing a mask today. I don't think the listeners are going to hear, but if at any point Princess sounds a tiny bit muffled, that's why, because she's a very considerate person wearing a mask. Thank you, Princess.
Of course. And thankfully, I am so loud, naturally, that I can project through.
Well, your energy definitely comes through. So, Princess, before we get started, we ask all of our guests to share a little bit of wisdom, unprompted. This has nothing to do with a letter. No letter writer asked you to do this. We just like to ask, what's a piece of unsolicited advice that you would share with the world? Something that would make all of our lives better.
This year has been a lot for everyone. So I think the truth of it, something that I've been keeping close to my own heart, is just leaning into being brave. It's very hard and it's very easy to live in fear of everything. And I'm an anxious flyer, for example. So lately with all my flights, I take whatever control I can have to hold on to things. I do the tracker, I check the turbulence, but then I just let go. Allow yourself to be in the moment and be proud of yourself for every day that you actually venture out. Everything can be scary. Anything could be, a reason to be anxious, but there's so many beautiful things out there to explore. So let the beauty of the world pull you out. Yeah. Don't let the darkness shut you inside, because we all deserve to be with each other.
Oh, absolutely. Leave the house.
Get on
that plane if you need to.
Yeah.
Do all the things.
Go on the train, go to the park, even if you just go for a walk. Being outside is good for you.
It is. Oh, that's beautiful. And that's something I think we can all do.
Yeah.
If we can just take a moment, throw open the windows, go outside, get a glimpse of the world. We don't have to stay in bed all day, hopefully.
And if you do read a good book, then you can at least mentally escape.
Yes.
Put the phones down.
Yes. Fantastic advice. All right, Princess, you and I are going to take a really quick break, but when we're back, we're going to dive into some of our wonderful listener questions. Stay with us, everyone.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Oh, sheet.
Honey, chill. It's just laundry.
Not that. I'm talking about these Arm & Hammer Power Sheets. All the power of Arm & Hammer laundry detergent in a convenient tossable sheet.
Oh, sheet.
That's what I'm saying.
And Arm & Hammer Power Sheets deliver an effective clean at a great price. Think of all the laundry we'll do.
And all the money we'll save. Oh, sheet.
Arm & Hammer, more power to you.
Hey everyone, we are back. You're listening to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, and I am here with Princess Weeks. Let's get started with our first letter of the day, titled East Coast.
My marriage had been dead for a decade before we opted for a divorce. The only thing holding us together were the kids, so we waited until our daughter turned 18 and graduated to file. Now, I always hated the backwards hellhole we moved to because my ex wanted to be near family. I wanted to move back to civilization and gave all 3 kids the option of coming with me, either to try for college or just explore life somewhere else. My daughter wanted to stay because of her boyfriend. She didn't even want to try for school. We argued, but ultimately, it was her choice. I found a 3-bedroom house. I lived there with my sons until one moved out, and my other went to live in the garage apartment we converted. Last year, I met my fiancée. She has preteen opposite-sex twins, and they all moved in. Meanwhile, my daughter just bounced between boyfriend at her mom's house. It was always one drama after another. She visited for Christmas and dropped the bomb that she wanted to come here and live like I promised 4 years ago. She refused to be rational about discussing it. She expected me to rearrange the entire house to suit her. She would get the master bedroom because she needed the private bath, and the twins would be forced to share. She expected me to buy her a car like I did her brothers. Well, I co-signed the loans and put them on my insurance, but they paid for everything. I would be paying all of her bills until she got on her feet. Her brother and I told her that wasn't possible, and her choice was to couch surf in the main house or in the apartment. She would be expected to hold down at least a part-time job while here. Well, she threw a fit and cried that I lied to her and left her behind. She then insulted my fiancé as being the bitch that broke up her family. And she did this right in front of the kids, and I had to ask her to leave and go stay in the apartment until her flight, unless she apologized. So she stayed with her brother, trashed some of his personal projects before she left. She refuses to talk to anyone, and her mother is blaming me. I love my daughter, but this behavior is bizarre and beyond anything she's ever done. What do I do?
Oof. Princess, I don't know about you, but I feel like there are a couple of issues going on here.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm going to tell you what I think the 2 biggest issues are, and then I'd love for you to weigh in. I think issue number 1 is the letter writer has a lot of anger toward their daughter here. Mm-hmm. A lot of anger, frankly, over stuff that maybe the anger isn't warranted about. You know, there's a lot of anger about what the daughter did at age 18, which, let's be real, 18-year-olds are kids. Come on. And there's anger about the present as well, but there's a lot of anger toward her and what was done in the past. And then the other issue at hand is, what do we do with where we're at now? These are what I see as the 2 issues. What about you, Princess?
You know, the first thing that kind of came up to me was them saying, the letter writer saying that they stayed in a marriage for the children. Mm-hmm. And I feel like while the letter writer is saying that the daughter has never done this before, the fact that she says that she felt like her family was broken up indicates that there was some sort of tension that these kids were absorbing. And the daughter is experiencing this in a whole new way. And for the letter writer to just move away and then give the ultimatum of stay or leave, they know that's hard for a kid. They built a life there, and maybe it was stifling to you, but to them, that's where their childhood was. That's where their family unit was. Yes. And I think that the letter writer isn't being conscious of the fact that just because it was a hellhole to you doesn't mean it wasn't home for them, and especially the daughter, who seems to be really struggling with maybe a little bit of abandonment and is now trying to sort of like claw back some of that control that they couldn't have during the divorce and then during the leaving. And I feel like there just needs to be a little bit more empathy to that. Like, you're starting a new life. You've got these new kids. You've got this new fiance. You know, that can all feel like you are replacing the daughter for this new family that's easier and a place that you prefer. I just think there needs to be a lot more communication and empathy, and not just focusing on the money and the responsibility. Yes, you can talk about those things, but it feels like there's just a lot of trust that's been severed that needs to be reestablished first.
Oh, I love that empathetic point of view. That's so kind and so empathetic toward the daughter. And, you know, it's kind of the flip side of what I was saying about the anger. He's focused so much on, why didn't she move in with me when she could have at 18? It's like, well, an 18-year-old seeing the family split up and one parent just moving who knows how far away, hours away. It could be another state away. This is a big thing to ask an 18-year-old kid to do. And, you're angry at your kid still about that, it sounds like, in the letter. It sounds like you're still angry at your kid for dating a few different people and staying with mom a lot of the time. Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people between the ages of 18 and 22 date multiple people, and sometimes they do boomerang back to the parents a couple of times during that. Yeah. And this isn't a reason why your daughter's a bad person. It just sounds like there's a lot of anger instead of that empathy you're saying.
Yeah.
Is
and
so
judgment.
Here.
Yes,
Yes,
because I heard that too when they were talking about bouncing from partner to partner. Like, they're 18. Do you want them to be married right away? Child bride,
Come on.
I think that even that speaks to, again, trying to have some kind of stability, looking for something that you're missing, and that the daughter is coming to the letter writer, trying to reestablish. And of course, it's going to be pushing of boundaries. But I think with empathy to the letter writer, you only learn how to be a parent as you go. I totally understand that. But part of it is trying to connect with your kid. Because at the end of the day, you're the parent. And you have that responsibility.
Yeah. So let's talk about going forward. What should the letter writer do at this point? The letter writer has made clear you can't be in this house. You can, until you apologize, which I think is fair. Yes. Apologizing to the new fiance and to the kids, I think that's a very fair thing to ask, apologies. But beyond the apologies, now this daughter is maybe bouncing back and forth between the apartment above the garage and the house and feeling displaced. Our letter writer is angry. What can be done to move forward here?
I think carving out a space, not just in the home, but in time for them. I think about, my own relationship with my own father. And one of the things that we always did, we had things that are just for ourselves. I think go back to the things that you two used to do together. And if you don't do them anymore, restart that. I think rebuilding that kind of level of trust and comfort, and then also just explaining things calmly, because I know sometimes parents think they explain things to you and they think that you should just automatically understand their minutia, but no, sit them down and say, listen, I know it seems like I paid for your brother's car. I did not. Just actually open up those lines of communication. Don't just put your head in the sand and be stubborn. Talk to your daughter like the adult you want her to be.
Yes, I love that. Also, think about what might be fair and equitable. I get the impression from this letter that the daughter was the youngest of the three kids. So what did you provide for your daughter's brothers that you can provide for your daughter? Maybe it's paying for the car insurance and co-signing a loan for a car like you did for the brothers. Exactly. Maybe it's giving low or no rent housing for a few months or maybe even a couple of years. But think about what's fair. What can you provide at this point? Because this is a case where I feel like you're trying to punish your daughter rather than care for your daughter. And that's part of the reason why this resentment is bubbling up on her part. And so I would think about that also. What would be fair? What would be kind? And again, as you're saying, Princess, what would be loving? What can you do as a father to build that relationship again? Some one-on-one time. Who are you right now? What can I do to make you feel seen and to make you feel like our relationship matters? Because it does. Yes, I have a new fiance. Yes, I have new stepkids on the horizon, but you're still my baby. You're my little girl, and I still want to be here for you.
Yeah, and make healthy compromises. Like, I think that for me, when I was living with my parents rent-free, love you, mom and dad, it was always have a job and go to school. So I think, having those conditions set as a way of also encouraging her to find, her own stability in life and to not feel like they can boomerang back. Give them something to make this new home a home for them. And I think school and work will help with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're not saying now it's time to let your daughter leech off of you, but, what can you do to be a good parent? And part of being a good parent is not raising a child. You're raising an adult. Help your daughter to become an adult and be loving. Be a good parent. All righty. Let's move on to our next letter. It is titled Final Line.
I had our daughter when I was 28 and then was a surrogate for a dear queer friend when I was 30. I had our son when I was 33. The next year, my sister-in-law, Bree, got divorced and her rebound was not immediately up for marriage and kids. Bree panicked and tried to have a baby by herself, only she ran into serious health issues that meant she couldn't carry the pregnancy. Bree immediately pounced on the fact that I had been a surrogate before, and I owed it to her to have a baby. This was not a gentle request, but a demand with heavy guilt tactics. My husband and I didn't even discuss the possibility. We were already on the fence about having a third child ourselves, and basically, Bree is a highly critical, controlling, and unpleasant person. She is a lawyer, and my husband works as an assistant to one, so he has wasted his potential. She has been vocally against us using formula, staggering vaccines, and keeping our cats. The first thing out of her mouth when she came to see our son was to poke me on the stomach and say she could see that I still hadn't lost the baby weight. We went on to have our third, and Bree never successfully had a baby. IVF and surrogacy didn't happen, and her adoption plans went nowhere. I'm 39. My cousin is basically my sister. She successfully survived chemo and had embryos frozen. My husband and I talked about being a surrogate for her and her husband. We didn't inform my in-laws until after I was in my first trimester, as we knew it would bring up bad blood with Bree. We figured with enough time and distance that it would blow over. Over the holidays, my father-in-law had a heart attack, and no one knew if he was going to make it, so we picked up the kids and drove to my in-laws. Bree was there. I tried to avoid her and be polite, then Bree crossed the line. She told my 11-year-old daughter that this baby should be her cousin, but her mother was too much of a lying whore. If my mother-in-law hadn't put a hand on me, I might have attacked Bree physically. Instead, I screamed about how much of a hateful bitch she was, and I would carry 100 other babies before I did hers. And it was a blessing from God that she wasn't a mother. No child should be subjected to someone as evil as her. I think it was one of the few times that Bree ever got any pushback because she started bawling and left the room. I got the kids packed up and texted my husband. He was livid and agreed we needed to leave. He agrees that Bree is toxic and we don't want her around the kids at all. The problem is the added stress on my mother-in-law. My father-in-law survived, but will need surgery. The aftercare means that my husband will have to see his sister. My mother-in-law just wants us all to apologize and be a family again. I love her. I know she is in an impossible position, but we spent years tiptoeing around Bree. This was the last line, and there is no going back. So how do we go forward?
Princess, if people could see us on camera now, you would see us shaking our heads. It's a lot of head shaking here. Let's talk about why we're shaking our heads, Princess.
I know it's bad, but I just want to congratulate you on just the self-control, because some people need to get beat up sometimes. And I can't imagine hearing that from someone who is asking to use my body.
Demanding
to use your body.
Yes.
And then to be judgmental and talky and not everyone is going to be the parent the way they expect, Mm-hmm. And to act so cruelly in the face of that does not speak well to the kind of parent you would have been.
No.
And I just really think that, I'm not a parent, but if I saw someone speak that way to my daughter-in-law while they're carrying, I would be disgusted. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, there has to be a separation between them. I know it's hard. I can only imagine what the mother must feel, the mother-in-law must feel, but it is unacceptable for that woman to be around you. Yeah. You just can't do that. It's just not good. And for Bree to say that to the child, that's when I really was like, oh, we got to pack it up because this is not going to happen.
Keep my babies out of this.
Yeah.
This is not about the kids.
Yeah.
They have nothing to do with this. Do not involve them in this stuff. Yeah. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Also, the letter writer, bless you for being able to be polite and keep it in this long.
Yeah, truly.
Bless you. But I also want to give a little shade to your husband. Your husband's job in the family is to be the referee for his family. It's not your job to be cornered by his family members and their expectations. Whether those expectations are, you have to carry my baby, or in the case of your mother-in-law, you have to apologize to your sister-in-law. And that's not okay. This is something where your husband can step in and do the job of managing his family. These are his people. He needs to manage them. And if you want there to be an apology in there, the apology can be, I'm sorry you had to witness that. That was a terrible, awful interaction. I'm so sorry you had to be a witness to that. You don't have to apologize for what actually happened, in my opinion. But I do think that this is really a place where your husband needs to do the family management. It's his family. He needs to manage these people. And
Absolutely.
That includes standing up for you, being 100% on your side here. And also, if there is going to be a schedule to navigate with taking care of your sick father-in-law, he needs to manage that.
Yeah, absolutely.
He needs to step up and do that. Daughters-in-law too often are dragged, and it's like, oh no, now I have to do all this work on top of my demanding day job, plus parenting these 3 kids, plus being a surrogate for my cousin.
Yeah.
It's not your job, letter writer. Your husband needs to step up and do a lot of this stuff right now. Most of this stuff, frankly.
Absolutely. And if this high-paid lawyer has so much, money that she can throw shade to everyone else's profession, then you can carry most of this. I mean, I just feel like when it comes to family, especially in-laws, it is so easy to get wrapped up in this idea of like, we're family, we have to get along. We have to respect each other. And if there is no respect, then we're not a family. And I think that when you have someone be so disrespectful to you, and I think beyond just the general respect, I think the lack of care for the letter writer's body, of what pregnancy would mean for them to go through, is just such a jarring indictment on a person. Surrogacy is already so hard on the body. It's already so morally complex. But to have someone who is willing and capable of doing that and wants to do that to help people, and you treat them like that, it just speaks so highly to the letter writer's character and so badly to Bree. And I really disgusted.
Yes. Yeah.
I knew there's going to be one that was going to make me this upset, and I didn't. It was this one. I'm so angry.
Yes. A lot to be angry about. And letter writer, on that note, I think you should allow yourself to be as angry as you want to be here.
Absolutely.
Stew in that anger, process the anger, go through all the feelings you need to go through. I'm not saying to live in that anger forever because Bree is not worth it, but don't feel like you have to deny those feelings.
Yeah.
Anger is not just a fiery emotion. It's an emotion that is there to remind us what we are worthy of and what we shouldn't have to put up with.
Yeah.
And I think anger gets a bad rep. Let yourself be angry for a little while here. Let your husband do the job of standing up for you.
Yeah.
And be the good, generous, loving person you are, the loving, generous person who's a surrogate, the loving, generous mom that you are. Do all the great things you're doing. Tell your mother-in-law you love her. Do what you can on that front. But again, a lot of this is not your circus or your clown.
Yeah.
So let your husband deal with his circus.
Perfect. Nice is different than good. You have to just,
Yeah.
let it go.
Yes. All right. On that note, let's take one more quick break. When we're back, more Dear Prudence.
At Sierra, discover great deals on top brand workout gear, like high-quality bikes, which might lead to another discovery. Getting back on the saddle isn't always comfortable. Good news is Sierra has massage guns. And chafe wipes, too. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
The Jack Welch Management Institute at Strayer University helps you go from, I know the way, to I've arrived with our top 10 ranked online MBA. Gain skills you can learn today and apply tomorrow. Get ready to go from make it happen to made it happen and keep striving. Visit strayer.edu/Jack Welch MBA to learn more. Strayer University is certified to operate in Virginia by Chev and has many campuses, including at 2121 15th Street North in Arlington, Virginia.
Welcome back to Dear Prudence. I'm Kristen Meinzer, and I am here with Princess Weeks to answer your letters. The next one is titled, self-centered daughter.
My mom seems to lack the ability to put herself in anyone else's shoes, and as a result, she is very self-centered and sometimes dismissive or callous towards other people. I love her, and I know it's not purposely malicious. She can be very kind when she can relate, but I am still often angry with her and find maintaining a relationship exhausting. It's impossible to have a conversation with her about anything but herself and her interests. She just tunes out and then jumps in with a non sequitur about her life at the earliest opportunity. I've always known everything there is to know about her friends, her work, her joint pain, etc. But even when I was a kid, she never knew or cared about my hobbies, my friends, or my life generally. I've been in the same career for more than a decade, and she still doesn't remember what I do for work. Other people's heartbreaks, anxieties, and even illnesses are met with eye rolls or rude laughter, but she expects boundless compassion if she is experiencing them herself. It's emotionally hurtful, but has also had severe physical consequences for me. For years, she refused to believe I was really sick and wouldn't take me to the doctor. It turned out to be a serious autoimmune disease. I have a million more examples, but I think you get the idea. She's been to therapy a number of times, but she has a tendency to quit the first time they say something she doesn't want to hear. I find spending time with her incredibly stressful, and over the past few years, I've been distancing myself more and more. At this point, I only see her a couple of times a year and often cut those visits short if she says something callous. Honestly, I'm not sure she's noticed, but other family members have and are upset with me. The constant refrain is that it's just the way she is. I need to be more understanding of her limitations, and I need to make more of an effort to include her in my life. Sometimes I think they're right. As her oldest child and only daughter, I feel that I've taken the brunt of her limitations in ways they don't understand. I've always had to be the adult in our relationship. Limiting in-person time to a couple of visits a year is better for my mental health, but I worry that now I'm the one who's being self-centered. I know she loves me in her own way, even if she isn't good at showing it. She lives alone and can certainly use more company. She has a difficult time maintaining friendships. While other families do visit, I live closer than most of them, and since I'm childless, I have an easier time traveling. Should I suck it up and try harder to be there for her? What do we owe to our flawed aging parents? I feel like I am, as I have been most of my life, stuck between her needs and my well-being.
Oh, God.
I know. Oh, man.
Yeah. Okay, so we obviously have feelings about this princess.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to jump right in and first of all say, should I suck it up and try harder? It sounds like you're already trying really hard.
Absolutely.
I want to start off just saying you are trying hard. You, letter writer, are a good daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like you've been trying really hard to be a good daughter in the face of very tough circumstances for your whole life. Mm-hmm. Having a parent deny medical care for you when you are sick because they don't believe you, that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Outrageous.
There are a lot of things in this letter that make it clear. Your mom doesn't need you to try harder. You're trying very, very hard already, and you've tried hard your whole life. But I'm sorry. I don't want to just yell through this whole thing. Princess, what are your thoughts?
You know, I am currently in a situation where my father has Lewy body dementia, and so it's been a very trying time for myself and my family. And so when it comes to like the aging parent perspective, I get how hard it can be, how a lot of emotions come in. And, you know, my relationship with my father has been complicated at times, but when it was complicated, I could remember the times where he cared for me. And those would always buoy me in going through that because I could tangibly remember and see the moments where he cared for me. Letter writer, if when you're thinking about your mom, you can't hold on to those moments, that says more about how they parented you than how you are responding as a daughter. Parenting is hard. You know, they're learning it as we are dealing with it. However, empathy and compassion are things that people learn as children. And if your mother cannot give that to you, then I think that taking on additional burdens isn't fair. Just because you happen to not have children doesn't mean it should be your responsibility inherently. It's because you're the eldest daughter. You know, those stereotypes exist for a reason. And I think, you know, they're bunk. Take time for yourself. Because if these experiences are just making your relationship with your mother worse, they don't behoove either of you to do that, to push yourself to do it. And if your family want to complain to you, quite frankly, then they should do more work themselves. That's what I always say. If you think that I'm doing a bad job, I'm not doing enough, then you do it. You deal with it more. And you have every right to that experience. And I'm just sorry.
Yeah. I am so sorry too. And I would encourage you, letter writer, to stop thinking about, is your mom getting enough care from you? And think more about, are you getting enough care? Because it might be worth pursuing some therapy or a support group yourself for children of narcissistic parents, something where you can be validated and not have people question whether or not you're a good enough daughter right now, like your relatives are doing to you. It might be really worthwhile to read some books that are directed at people in your situation to get some cheerleaders around you. Confide in your friends, make new friends, talk to people who are on your team. You need people on your team right now, and you deserve that. You know, your mom has pursued therapy to a certain extent. You deserve therapy too, to have people backing you up here. This is a tough situation. And I'm also just going to say something that I know is going to rub a lot of people the wrong way. I do not believe it is a child's job to take care of their parent. And when I hear people say, you know, I had children so somebody would take care of me when I'm older, that's not a good enough reason to have a kid.
Absolutely not.
That's not why a child should be brought into the world, and it is not your duty to take care of somebody who is emotionally negligent and abusive of you, regardless of whether or not they were your biological, adopted, or other sort of parent. It's not your job to take care of people who are terrible to you. And I you know, even if your mom was the greatest mom in the world and you were only able to take care of her so much, so be it. We can only do so much as humans. We can only do so much for people who were good to us, and we absolutely should not be expected to do more than we already are for people who are not good to us.
And the fact that your mother does not have friends speaks for itself.
Yes.
You know, like those are such, you know, if you were dating, you know, you'd be like, oh, that's a red flag.
Yes.
You know, and I think, you know, honor that. And I know that going no contact is something that is relatively new, and in certain communities it can be even more stigmatized. But I think there is merit to saying that, like, you have to protect your peace.
Yes.
And I don't know how involved your younger siblings, brothers, I'm assuming from how they worded this in their letter, but I think that you should start a group chat with them and really have a moment to talk about this, because I find that as everything is happening with my own parent, talking to my siblings and just sharing our perspectives, sharing our time, seeing who can take over things, it does help things a lot easier. So, you know, don't put it all on yourself. You have siblings, doesn't care if it doesn't matter that you're the oldest. Spread the emotion.
Also, one last thing I just want to add, that line of reasoning, oh, that's just the way your mom is, malarkey. I do not care if somebody, oh, you know the way he is. He always touches children. Shut up.
Right.
Oh, you know the way she is. She's always mean to everybody. Just accept it. No. Just because somebody is always like A, B, or C doesn't mean you have to put up with A, B, or C. So I hate that argument. That's just the way they are.
That's the way they are. They just love to stab people.
What can you do? What can you do? No. You know what you can do? You can get away from the knife. You can step away. All right. Well, that is it for our questions for this week. Oh my gosh, Princess, this has been so wonderful. You are such a delight. You're so kind. You're so compassionate. And I know that all of our letter writers got a lot out of your wisdom today. Can you remind us, Princess, where can our listeners get more of you?
Thank you so much. This was such a wonderful experience. My heart feels so full right now. If people would like to hear more from me, I am on YouTube under Princess Weeks. That's where I post my video essays, also through the streaming service Nebula. And then I'm also one of the co-hosts of the PBS Books Readers Club. So every month we interview authors and talk about their books. It's a lovely just experience of trying out some new and old classics. And I'm not on any other kind of social media. Oh, except Instagram. I do that. Same name, where I post pictures of my cat.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Princess. And listeners, if you want more of me, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at K10Meinzer. And on my podcast, you can hear me. That's By the Book, How to Be Fine, Daily Fail, and a few other shows I host. Listeners, do you need help getting along with partners, relatives, coworkers, and people in general? write to Prudie. Go to slate.com/Prudie. That's slate.com/PRUDIE. The Dear Prudence column is published every Thursday. Dear Prudence was produced this week by Vic Whitley-Berry and Maura Currie with editorial help from Paola de Verona. Daisy Rosario is senior supervising producer, and I am your guest, Prudence Kristen Meinzer. That's all for this episode, but join us on today's episode of Prudie Plus, where Princess and I answer a question from someone writing from the sunken place. Subscribe now on Apple Podcasts by clicking Try Free at the top of our show page, or visit slate.com/Prudie Plus to get access wherever you listen. The episode is available for you to listen to right now. We'll see you over there.